Good morning, guys. On this installment of PJ Cooks Sexy Food, we're going to make Fiore Di Latte. What does that translate to? Fresh mozzarella, one of America's favorite cheeses. So let's get started.
Okay, so for our homemade mozzarella, we're going to need 5 basic ingredients. The first ingredient we're going to need is 1 1/4 cups of water, 1 1/2 teaspoons of citric acid, 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of liquid rennet, or 1/4 of a tablet rennet. We're going to need some hardware. We're going to need 2 thermometers. I have my instant read and I have my analog. I have my spider to fish out the curds. I have my offset spatula or a long knife to cut the curd. I have my sieve to strain the curd, and I have a wooden spoon. Off to the side, I have one pot heating up with some water that I want to get to 175 degrees, and I have another pot that we're actually going to mix everything together with. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is in our 1 cup of water, I'm going to take our 1 1/2 teaspoons of citric acid. I'm going to combine those two. I'm going to let them sit for a moment, and I'm going to stir it just to combine. In our 1/4 cup of water, I'm going to take a 1/4 teaspoon of rennet. Now, rennet is not a typical item that you're going to find in your pantry or in your refrigerator, but you can easily find this on Amazon. That's where I bought this bottle. And I'm going to combine that with the water, and we're going to set that off to the side for a couple of minutes as well. Off on my side burner, I have a big pot of water. There, I'm going to clamp on my analog thermometer, and I want to get this water up to 175 degrees, and I want to keep it there while we proceed. So bringing over a large non-reactive pot, I'm going to add in my 1 cup of water with the citric acid, and my 1 gallon of milk. I want to add this in as quickly as possible. There we go. I want to give this a quick stir. Now I'm going to put this onto my burner on medium heat, and I want to get this up to 90 degrees. And to do so, I'm going to use my instant read thermometer to keep track of that. Okay, so our milk has reached 91 degrees. I'm okay with that. Now what we're going to do is we have to add in the rennet. And once we add this in, we got to start constantly for 30 seconds. Because we want to evenly distribute that in with the milk. We don't want it to coagulate in different places. We want this to be perfectly smooth. And I'm going to do like a paddle type of a rowing motion in the pot for 30 seconds to make sure everything is well combined. Okay, so I stirred that constantly for 30 seconds. Now I'm going to clamp on the lid, and we're going to let this sit for as little as 5 minutes, for as long as 30 minutes, just until the curds start to form. Okay, so it's been about 5 to 7 minutes now, and you can see how we're starting to get almost like a solid mass that has formed. That is exactly what we wanted. We're creating our curd. So now I'm going to take my offset spatula, or you could do it with a knife, and I'm just going to go into the bottom, and I'm going to cut across. I'm going in and cutting across. I'm doing it in about 1-inch cubes is what I'm going to look for. So I'm going to go one way, then I'm going to go and turn it and cut it the other way. Okay, now that our curds have been cut, I'm going to take our pot, I'm going to move it back onto the heat, and I want to bring this up to 110 degrees, and I'm going to keep checking it with my instant read thermometer. Okay, so we've been heating our curd up to 110 degrees. You can see it started to come together. This is beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to strain this out into our strainer over a bowl. So I have a nice big work bowl. I have my strainer there. I'm going to use my spider. I'm going to go in. I'm going to fish out all of these curds that we created. I'm going to put these curds right into my strainer, not leaving any behind. And we're going to let this sit for a minute or so, just for the excess whey to drain out of this cheese. Okay, so I let that sit for a minute. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm just going to pick up this bowl of curds, and I'm just going to give it a squeeze, and squeeze out that excess whey. Perfect, just like that. You still want to leave some in there. You just want to squeeze out a good amount of it. Add excess whey in the bowl. I'm going to pour it back into the pot. I'm going to put our curds here in this big bowl that we have. Give my hands a little rinse. Now I'm going to grab that water that we had on the side at 175 degrees. Okay, so taking a couple of ladles of that 175 degree water, we're going to pour that right on top of the curds here. And now is the time we're going to add our salt. And what I'm going to do, instead of using the front of the spoon, I'm going to use the back of the spoon, and I'm going to start to stretch our curds. Right now it's still not soft enough, so I'm going to throw in another ladle of that's 175 degree water just to melt these a little bit. Let it sit to soften. There we go, now it's starting to soften. And we're going to basically pull it almost like a taffy. Now you may be questioning, PJ, why does your mozzarella look a little bit yellow? The reason why mine looks a little yellow right now is because of the milk that I'm using. The milk that I'm using is raw milk that I got from Tylute Farms, and it's 100% natural, organic milk. This milk came from the cows. The milk picks up the hue of what it's been eating, and it's beautifully soft and silky. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to keep shaping it, folding it a little bit onto itself until it starts to create a smooth ball and you don't get that pulling that you see right there. So I'm going to let that sit in the hot for just another moment. Okay, so my hands are used to working in this heat. Yours might not be, so if you're not, you can wear a couple of pairs of gloves. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going to take it, I'm going to pull it, and I'm tucking it under. I'm pulling it from the top like this, and tucking under, tucking under, tucking under, and I'm basically creating a ball. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, I'm going to pull it together, I'm going to give it a pinch, squeeze out any excess from the middle, and there we have it. We have a beautiful ball of fresh mozzarella. I'm going to take this, I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, and then I'm going to let it rest in that pot of whey that we have on the side, so that this way it'll cool down gently. Let it sit, let it cool, and then we'll be ready to slice it up. So our mozzarella has been resting. Now I'm going to take it, wrapped in plastic as it is. I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator just till it firms up the rest of the way. While I do that, I'm going to take the rest of that whey, all that whey that was left over, because we had a good amount, which actually I don't think you saw how much whey there was remaining. You can see how much whey is still in this pot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that whey, I'm going to pour in 2 cups of heavy cream into that whey. You're thinking, PJ, what are you doing? 2 cups of heavy cream. That's right. 2 cups of heavy cream. I'm going to stir that together. I'm going to put this onto the heat. I'm going to bring this up to 205 degrees. Once it hits 205 degrees, I'm going to go ahead and add in the juice of 2 lemons, which is about 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice. I'm going to stir that up, let it sit for a few moments till curds form, and I'm going to have some homemade ricotta to go with that homemade mozzarella that we just made. How simple and easy is that? Okay, so we got our milk and whey and cream mixture up to about 200 degrees. You can see some curds have already started forming. That was from the citric acid that was in the whey originally. Now I'm going to go ahead, add that lemon juice in. Going to give this a stir. And I'm going to let this sit for a couple of minutes for the curds to form. Once they form, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to strain them out of this, just like we did in our ricotta recipe. Because basically what does ricotta mean? It means recooked. So what we did is we recooked the whey, we fortified it with a little bit more, so that this way we can create that ricotta. So I'm going to move that over. I have a bowl with my sieve and a piece of cheesecloth. And once the curds have formed, I'm going to scoop them out, put them in the cheesecloth, and let them sit and drain until it becomes a consistency that I want. So here is our finished product. There's our beautiful mozzarella that is rested. You can see how creamy and moist that is on the inside. We have our ricotta that we made with the leftover whey that we fortified with that heavy cream. Once you make this at home, you will never buy mozzarella and ricotta in the store again. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you tried it at home. Thank you for tuning to PJ Cook Sexy Food. We'll see you next time.